Mic check 1 2 1 2 3 4 5. Mic check 1 2 3 4 5. Mic check 1 2 3 4 5. Yo, man, yo, what is going on, everybody? Like I said, this is the December 8th, 2024 edition of the Boxing Source podcast. That's right, JR Bell checking in here live and everything like that. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to have ourselves a real busy show here on this thing here, man. You know what I mean? And what we're going to be talking about is, of course, all of the action that did uh take place, and what we're going to do is we're going to also, have what went down over the course of the week. We're going to be trying to get into that as well. You know what I mean? So that's something that I will be going over here in this particular podcast. And we're going to see if we could also open up the phone lines here when we can. So let's see if we could go and have this thing pretty much started. I want to go ahead and have this thing to jump on ahead. So what we're going to do is we're going to make things happen here on this particular channel. You know what I mean? So what's up? What's going on? What's good, everybody? That's right. We are here live. Big ups for everyone listening live. If you can, go ahead and hit the share button here when it comes to what's going down and everything like that. But let me see here. I want to go ahead and kind of switch things up here a little bit. Let me see if I could do this right here. You know what I'm saying? Because this is on the live joint here right now. And we want to go ahead and get this thing started. When it comes to what happened on Saturday night, there were like two particular fight cards, one in Puerto Rico, one in Arizona. So we're going to be talking about those two fight cards. We had specifically two fight cards that we're going to be focusing on with that, or at least two particular fights within what was going on in Arizona, and then what was going to be, or basically what's going down over in Puerto Rico, as we had a lot of stuff that was going on in Puerto Rico here. So we're going to go ahead and try this here. So hold on just a minute, y'all, because we are going to make sure that this is pretty much straight. All right, so we should be here good to go and everything like that, checking in. So what we got is, first off, want to go ahead and talk about what happened over in Arizona at the top rank card. We had, there on top rank, right? We had two world title fights and two rematches that were part of this thing here for world titles. We had Emmanuel Navarrete versus Oscar Valdez there for the WBO title, right, at 130 pounds. Then you had Rafael Espinoza versus Robiesy Ramirez in a rematch for the WBO title at 126 pounds. And man, we saw a beat down. We saw somebody like pretty much put up a no mas or something like that. It was crazy. It was wild. It was crazy. It was insane. You feel me? And the thing about it is that you had two big follow up stories after these fights. First, want to go ahead and kind of break down what was going on with the main event. There you had Emmanuel Navarrete, of course, defending his title, right? He was defending his title against Oscar Valdez. In the first bout, just being real, just being honest. I thought in that first bout, I thought they were going to stop that bout with Oscar Valdez there last year, man. because I felt like Valdez was just getting outworked, out hustled, and getting beat up there. And there were a number of times there, particularly in the back half of that fight, where I felt like it was going to be stopped, but that didn't necessarily happen. So you had there with Emmanuel Navarrete getting that win last year, August of last year, by unanimous decision, right? And then after that, for Navarrete, he ended up having a bout against Robeson Conceição that ended up being a majority draw. That was a good, very close fight between those two fighters. And then after that, you had Navarrete try to go up to 135 pounds to try to win the WBO title at 135 against Dennis Berinchik. But man, that fight, oh my God, that was not a good fight at all. Not a good fight at all. And Navarrete ended up losing that bout by split decision, and that pretty much like forced him to get back down to 130 pounds to keep the WBO title there at that particular weight class. Now for Oscar Valdez, after his loss to Emmanuel Navarrete, he had one bout against Liam Wilson there, which was kind of like a good little scrap there for a few rounds, and then Oscar Valdez just outworked Liam Wilson in order to get a stoppage victory there in that particular bout. But that set him up for this rematch here against Emmanuel Navarrete. And at least for me, at least I would say that I favorite Navarrete going into this particular bout, because with Oscar Valdez in his two losses, right? He had his loss to Shakur Stevenson, and then that loss, last year to Emmanuel Navarrete against fighters that had, at least a longer reach or better movement than Oscar Valdez. And Valdez is one fighter that didn't necessarily work on his hands, his defense when it comes to his hands. Really doesn't move his head a lot, and doesn't have the foot movement to get in and out of spots. So at least here in this upcoming rematch, or the rematch that he had here against Emmanuel Navarrete, his thing was, well, let's see how he's going to be able to approach this rematch. And I think what he did there, and you kind of saw it early if you were able to watch the fight live, that he banked on, trying to have his hands up and try to rely on the counterpunch game. Let's see if he could block enough shots while going in, and then, landed in the counter shots, or, trying to be more forceful with his punches there against Emmanuel Navarrete. But man, in the first round, they ain't even pretty much working the first round. And he ended up getting, hit with a barrage of punches there in the first round before pretty much the end of the first round. And he ended up getting knocked down in the first round. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh man, this ain't looking good. This ain't looking good at all. It's not looking good. And so, what we had there in those following rounds was just Oscar Valdez just trying to get himself within range. But, with Emmanuel Navarrete, he throws punches in bunches. That's what he's known for, particularly when he's been at 126 and 130 pounds. I think he had a stint at 122 when he was starting his career. But throwing about like 100 punches around at times, that is Emmanuel Navarrete. So you got to be able to do something where you have some good movement, with your feet, or good movement with your hands, or, trying to catch and slip and do that type of thing in order to discourage Emmanuel Navarrete. And Oscar Valdez, at least here in this particular bout, couldn't necessarily do it. And so he just got into multiple predicaments there against Emmanuel Navarrete, having his back to the ropes, get back up to the corner, and just being, out of place, there in multiple occasions, right? And, it felt like they're around like round 4 or something like that. That's when you kind of like saw him have some issues with his feet as far as like his ankle and stuff like that. So you saw him stumbling, you saw him tripping around and all that type of stuff. So before the end of round 4, you saw another knockdown being scored by Emmanuel Navarrete on Oscar Valdez through a barrage of punches. You feel me? Whole bunch of barrage of punches, And with that being said, I'm like, oh goodness, this is like the first fight, but even worse. Like the first fight, but even worse. And you have Oscar Valdez in the corner. He's part of Canelo team. You have Eddie Reynoso as the the lead trainer there for Oscar Valdez, and at least for me, I didn't really see something that has him give like a major adjustment to Oscar Valdez in this bout against Navarrete. Particularly after that round four, the end of round four, that knockdown was scored right before the end of round four. And so with Oscar Valdez getting to his corner, it was almost like, yeah, he didn't necessarily have much left. And I think there at one time you had the doctor step in and all that to kind of see what was going on with Oscar Valdez. You feel me? Hey, Alonzo, man, yeah, I feel you. I feel you on that, man. But the doctor, let him go through. Oscar Valdez said, "Hey, I'm good, and everything like that." But with that being said, round five, it was more Navarrete with his volume punching. And the thing about Navarrete is he was looking pretty good as far as like his range. And when he's throwing his punches, it's like he knows his range, right? Because he was able to like mix jabs. He throws like the uppercuts, from a good distance, but also he was also throwing like hooks. He looked like he was starting to throw a jab and then come around with the hook and go around the guard of Oscar Valdez. That really rocked Oscar Valdez over the course of the bout. And then before the end of that fifth round, you had Oscar Valdez, throw a punch, and he, had his mouth open, and then you seen what happened there with Navarrete come through the uppercut, bam, and knock off the mouthpiece of Oscar Valdez there before the end of round five. And then round six, it just was too much for Oscar Valdez. Once again, back into the ropes, close to his corner there, and you just seen Navarrete do work and then just hit him with the left to the body, bam. And Oscar Valdez just went down, and it was like, man, he was like, I've been knocked down a couple times before in this fight. I haven't done, much to really, affect Navarrete here in this particular point. And it's like, man, I at least I felt like it looked like Oscar Valdez just knew at that particular point that he couldn't really do that much. Now, at least for me seeing it live and then seeing the replay, you kind of like seeing the kind of like the inside of the glove there from Emmanuel Navarrete land to the body. Like it wasn't like a clear like over this side. If you're watching here live on the YouTube and Rumble, you can see like when you have the well, it's kind of like this when you're wrapped. So he didn't really land like that. He landed pretty much with the side or like the palm there, Emmanuel Navarrete. But still, that's the thing about it is that with Oscar Valdez going down to that, yeah, it was a wrap. It was over. Stoppage there, KO victory for Emmanuel Navarrete. He retains that title there at super featherweight WBO, and he, has a good amount of stuff that he can still do there as super featherweight. Of course, like I mentioned before, he had that stint where he could have won the WBO lightweight title, but fell short against Dennis Berinchik. So now it's more about what he could do here at the 130-pound division. You did have the WBC champion, O'Shaquie Foster, there in attendance for that fight in Phoenix, Arizona, right? So that has been the fight that, I kind of matched up, prepared up, between those two. But you had, of course, what happened earlier this year with O'Shaquie Foster and that decision to Robeson Conceição, which still is one of the worst decisions this year, by far. You know what I mean? So with that being said, you had Foster get that immediate rematch over in Verona, New York, get the decision win. So he's a WBC champion. So now we can have that unification next year. WBC, WBO championship there at 130 pounds between O'Shaquie Foster and Emmanuel Navarrete. So definitely looking forward to that because you have Navarrete as one of those offensive guys, and you have, O'Shaquie Foster as a fighter that was able to use have a lot of movement, defense, catch and slip, move around, and he's had bouts against fighters that have a lot of activity, around that much activity there when he fought Ray Vargas. So this is another good bout here that involves Osaki Foster, but this time it'll be in the unification bout there at 130 pounds. So we're going to see how that goes. And I know that we got one of these live folks here live that's watching it. Looks like man, it looks like he don't like the whole team there from Eddie Reynoso, man, because he be on Canelo and now he be on Oscar Valdez. But let me tell you something, Oscar Valdez, he did what he did. He's been a champion at 126. He's been a champion at 130. Had the opportunity to unify at 130, but couldn't do that against Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson pretty much like blew him out. There really wasn't much of a challenge there for Shakur Stevenson that night there in Vegas, right? And then after that, going up to win, basically, go after the world title again against Emmanuel Navarrete, and well, no good. So with him, it's like, okay, he's had these shots to either unify or try to win the title here once again at 130 pounds. And seeing what happened here against Navarrete, it's going to be really, really tough to see him be around there to contend for a world title once again at 130 pounds. So it's going to be a real tough decision for Oscar Valdez to see how he continues his career from this point forward. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so that's what you had there in that particular fight. Now we'll see if we could go ahead and open the phone lines here a little bit later here for the live folks on here. If y'all have any thoughts on what went down, so we'll see how that goes, right? All right, but now want to get into that co-feature bout, another rematch. You had Rafael Espinoza, right, and Robiesy Ramirez there, and that was at 126. And for the last one, that last bout that they had, to me, that pretty much like 1-2 awards here for the boxing schools, right? Fight of the year, pretty much like fight of the year and upset of the year. You had Espinoza knocked down in the 5th round of that first bout. Then he was able to come back and he was able to get a knockdown in the 12th round. And that was pretty much the difference in the fight for Rafael Espinoza to get that win, right? And then both of them had, one fight in between. And we were just saying, like, after those fights took place, we were just waiting for this rematch to happen. It just took like a little time for them to actually schedule this bout, but it actually, took place and it went down. You feel me? And so with that being said, you had this rematch, and the thing with Robiesy Ramirez, of course, he had the decorated background there, multiple gold medals there in the Olympics, everything like that. But as a pro, they tried to have him with that start as a pro, and what did it do? It took like three bouts, right? For Robiesy Ramirez. No, it wasn't even 3. It was 1. He lost his pro debut. Right? But then turn around and he got back in the game. He got a few wins. He got the fight back with Aiden Gonzalez there in the rematch. Was able to win the decision there in the 6th round bout. Got himself built up to compete for world titles there, and he was able to defeat Isaac Dogbe for that WBO featherweight title. So looked like he was getting all those accolades and all that type of stuff there in the featherweight division. And then you had that fight with Rafael Espinoza. And for me, man, Rafael Espinoza is like one of those, like I said, unicorns out there. It's 126 pounds. 126 is a weight limit there for featherweight. Rafael Espinoza is listed at 6'1". 6'1". Come on, man. 6'1"? Bro, like, and that's at 126. It's crazy. It's crazy. So you go into this bout, and the thing there with the rematch, and as mentioned there in the live chat, that's one of the big stories there for this particular bout is what happened around the 4th round. In that you had Robiesy Ramirez pretty much claimed that he was getting hit with elbows there from Rafael Espinoza. whether it's like from a follow up through a punch or anything like that, like close quarters or whatnot. So that was the thing that you look like Robiesy Ramirez was having issues with from the fourth round on. And so you had the fifth round go down, and still Robiesy Ramirez, man, he was still competing out there and everything like that. Like you could say that he was still game. He still had good opportunities to go ahead and try to win the fight, right? He had those good opportunities to try to win the fight. But at least for me, it was more about the work rate there of Rafael Espinoza. And then you had the thing that went down in the sixth round. And sixth round, you've seen, Robiesy Ramirez, he was like, up there, kind of like stationary, kind of backing up a little bit. And then Rafael Espinoza lands a right hand. And then, man, you see Robiesy Ramirez just like wave himself off. This ain't even like, he didn't even like take a knee like, how Kell Brook took a knee against Errol Spence Jr. for that IBF welterweight title, right? He didn't even do that. He was just like Roberto Duran, like, nope, 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 turn the back, nope, okay, I'm done. This is it. It's over. I'm through with this, right? And so ref stepped in, jumped in and said, whoa, 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 fight done. Fight is done, man. Fight is done. I mean, come on, fight is done. Yeah. That's a cheap little thing for the belt. But the fight was done, So you had Rafael Espinoza get a stoppage win, 22nd win by way of knockout, 26-0, defending that WBO featherweight title. And for Robiesy Ramirez, at least up to the point there where they had the ESPN State of Boxing there afterwards. They still had the report about him having that eye issue. They said he checked in the hospital, and that has been one of the major topics here over this past few hours. And is it that Robiesy Ramirez just packed it in, called it in, or anything like that? Alonzo, that would be a really, really good fight. That would be a great. Someone suggested that yesterday, but Navarrete versus Espinoza, that would be a great fight there at 130 pounds. You feel me? Like I said, you had Navarrete there at 126 before, and so you could have him against Espinoza at 130. That would be something. You say Robiesy doesn't know how to fight inside, or properly step forward. Yeah, you kind of seen that here. Even though Espinoza, like I said, they're at 6'1", but at least you would think with the background that Robiesy Ramirez has, that he would be able to have that type of style to either try to catch and shoot or move his head around to get around what Rafael Espinoza was doing. Nope, not really. And so that's what ended up happening. He ended up getting tagged a few times there over the course of this bout, and he, like you said, once had the claim there of getting hit with elbows too. So, I mean, it wasn't quite like the elbow that Sebastian Fundora had, with Tim Tszyu, but Tim Tszyu kind of like went forward and got hit by that elbow. But this is completely different. But even with that being said, like they were saying immediately after the fight, which had Joe Tessitore, there you had like Tim Dude, you had Mark Kriegel, you know what I'm saying, Bernardo Osuna, they're part of the crew, and they were saying like, we've seen this only a few times over the course of the history of boxing. It's just that you got to be able to at least say that you want to still try to compete and all that type of stuff. But like I was mentioning earlier, at the very least, could you have it to the point where you could give yourself a break? Go down on one knee, take the 8 count, collect yourself, and say, hey, do I, can I really do this? Yeah, I know that you said you were talking about double vision and whatnot, but still, at least in the moment, so to speak. It's for the world title. It's a rematch. This is your opportunity to get that WBO featherweight title again. See if you could try something where you could collect yourself and see if you could just, dig down. But we didn't see that there from Robiesy Ramirez. So that's why you ended up having this thing be waved off there in the 6th round. It was one of the more bizarre things that we've seen. Probably the most bizarre thing we've seen this year. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing, man. Shout out to Matt Gomez also there in the live chat. We're saying Navarrete versus Valdez looked like a junior welterweight beating a super featherweight. Valdez not bona fide, and Emmanuel's over the weight limit. I mean, some folks have said that about Emmanuel Navarrete, but I mean, he had his time there where he could have been a 135-pound champion and still was short there against Dennis Berinchik. He really didn't look like the active fighter that we have seen Emmanuel Navarrete be over the course of his career when he fought Dennis Berinchik. Like, his punch output was significantly lower there against Dennis Berinchik, at least from what I was watching live on that. So him delving back into the 135-pound division, yeah, maybe some time before he does that. They kind of talked about that 2 fights there at 130 pounds, and then maybe having another attempt at 135 for Emmanuel Navarrete. But at least from that last attempt there, we didn't have that. We didn't get that. We didn't have that. So with that being said, with Navarrete, we'll see if he gets that title fight, title unification fight there with Oscar Valdez, as I mentioned earlier, and then after that, we'll see how it goes. Now, back to this thing here with Robiesy Ramirez. I mean, he's had that's 17 pro fights, 14-3 now, with this being a stoppage loss and him just waving it off. So, I mean, at least from right now, from what I've seen, I haven't seen much about any, updates for Robiesy Ramirez. I'm just trying to see here if they got something here, man. But I haven't quite seen that yet. I haven't seen anything yet. Yeah, they haven't really given any update as far as like his condition there as far as his eye is concerned. So, and this is going to be really interesting to see what happens now with Robiesy Ramirez, particularly him being a former world champion there at the heavyweight division. We got to see like how that goes, because they're being in Top Rank, and the whole thing with Top Rank in the WBO, that's usually their best route of being a world champion. So with Robiesy Ramirez now falling short once again here to Rafael Espinoza, what's his next route? Where is he going to go after this? Well, I have little to no idea. I know that you have something. I mean, maybe they could have him going up against what? I'd say Bruce Carrington there at featherweight, maybe. But I don't know if they're gonna do that, because now you have Robiesy Ramirez there ranked at number 1 in the WBO. Bruce Carrington's there at number 2. So they could go ahead and just have Bruce Carrington go up to number 1 there in the WBO, and he'll be the top rated contender there in the WBC as well, because Robiesy Ramirez was there at number 1 in the WBC. So yeah, with Ramirez, yeah, I don't know if they're gonna have something there lined up for him to kind of like get back in the mix there in the 126-pound division. So this is a big loss, and of course with what's going on with the Zai, he's going to be pretty much like out of commission there for a while. Oh man, let me see you here, man. I got like folks go ahead and try to yeah. That's not much there as far as like what's going on outside of this. But now with like I said, with Rafael Espinoza, I mean, he could have that defense, a world title defense. I mean, I don't know if the WBO had made this a mandatory type thing. So I have to look that up to see if that was like a mandatory defense there of that WBO title there. Because if it is, then Rafael Espinoza wouldn't really have to worry about anything as far as like a mandatory defense. So I'm looking to see how that goes. Yeah, they said that was like a purse bid for it. So yeah, that was a mandatory defense of that WBO title. So Espinoza could have another voluntary defense of that title before he would have to, defend it again. Now, there could be an outside shot, an outside chance that he could have a voluntary defense of that featherweight title. And then after that, he would have a mandatory defense. But it wouldn't necessarily be against Bruce Carrington. It could be against who is currently the undisputed champion at super bantamweight, Naoya Inoue, who has been linked to going up to 126 pounds in 2025. So we're gonna see how that goes, man. We're gonna definitely see how that goes, because if Bob Arum was saying, hey, look, we're gonna have Naoya Inoue fight in December, and then we're gonna have him in America. We got something planned in Vegas or New York, but we're going to have Inoue in the U.S. That's what we're going to do. So, yeah, so we're seeing how this happens with Naoya Inoue. I know that Inoue had a visit over to New York City sometime back, and he was, like a very, very, popular figure when he arrived in New York at that time. So maybe they'll have something in New York City for Naoya Inoue. And if they do, I don't think it's going to be at the theater at Madison Square Garden. They're going to probably try to open up the big arena for Naoya Inoue if he comes through. So I would like to see if they're going to have that plan for Naoya Inoue after he defends his title. He has an upcoming world title defense, of course, undisputed championship defense, against Sam Goodman coming up here in December. And then after that, then we'll see if he's going to actually go up to 126 pounds. Because after this particular defense, he's already had a few mandatory defenses of these world titles. Like, there really isn't much left for Naoya Inoue to do at 122 pounds. Why would he wait for Junto Nakatani to come up to 122 when he could just go up to 126 and do some work at 126? Yeah, Junto Nakatani versus Naoya Inoue in Japan, yeah, that would be crazy. But I really don't think that we're gonna get that fight. I don't. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Okay. So with that being said, be on the lookout in 2025 for Rafael Espinoza versus Naoya Inoue for the WBO Featherweight Championship by the middle of the year. Okay, that'll be something. That'll be something. And if you could have that fight in the U.S., you see how much money you get off of that? Man, shoot. That could be who I guess Top Rank would need as far as like a superstar there for Top Rank that they could build, because they really haven't had that superstar there at Top Rank for some time now. Probably not since Manny Pacquiao or Miguel Cotto. So maybe Naoya Inoue is the one that could, have Top Rank be at that point where they have a superstar there in the sport of boxing that, they necessarily work with. I know, Inoue is under Taking Promotions as well. So Top Rank needs some work. They need some work. Just being honest, they need some work on, getting or having a superstar. And because who they have right now, they just ain't it. They just ain't it. All right. So that's what we had there in reference to that Top Rank fight card. The mother fights, man. Just being honest, man. That mother fights, man, they ain't it, man. They just weren't it. Like just about all of the A sides on that particular card won, except for the first bout. That's it. Like, come on, come on, man. What are we doing? That just wasn't the business. It was just not the business, man. All right, so now let's get into what else happened. They're in the super lightweight division. Feel me? Yeah, the IBF, 140-pound title on the line. Okay, you had Liam Paro coming in there as the defending champion, the defending IBF super lightweight champion, with a record of 25-0, with 15 of those wins by way of knockout. Of course, he won the title from Subriel Matias. That was like one of the more surprising results that happened this year, with Subriel Matias having the momentum that he did have while having that IBF title. Yo, Smack, that what's going on with you, man? Matt Gomez in the building. Yeah, we just doing the thing here for the Boxing Source podcast. Of course, here for December 8th, 2024. Like I said, if you like the content here, whether you're on YouTube or Rumble Live, you can go ahead and hit the like button. Those are listening to the podcast, whether it's Spotify or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Just, hit the follow. Make sure you get what's the latest here from the Boxing Source podcast and spread the word. All right. So, yeah, back to what was going on in San Juan, Puerto Rico. IBF super lightweight title. Richardson Hitchins. There's a challenger going in as a challenger against Liam Paro. They're undefeated at 18-0. Of course, had his bout against Gustavo Lemos at the Fountain Blue in Las Vegas. Was a pretty interesting bout that took place there. Yes, he did win by decision. Some people felt like Gustavo Lemos could have gotten the better of that particular fight. So a number of people were looking to see how Hitchins was going to react to this and go ahead and fight Liam Paro, particularly with Liam Paro. At least for me, before his bout against Subriel Matias, was really having some good momentum with his wins over Brock Jarvis, and then against Montana Love, just beating up Montana Love, right? So here we had to see like if Richard Hitchins was going to be able to, step up to the occasion, his first world title bout. And with Liam Paro, the thing with Paro was maybe they could have had some plans for Liam Paro in 2025 with the IBF title. But he went up against a guy here, Richardson Hitchins, man. That was just, just too much for him. At least I felt like it was too much for him. Over the course of this bout, like Hitchins utilized every advantage that he could have here, particularly after those first few rounds. I thought it was something where Hitchins, there being a taller fighter and having a longer reach, pretty much around 3 inches reach advantage there or whatnot. So I just felt like for Hitchins, he just tried to make Liam Paro pay once he tried to get within range in his instance. And after about a few more rounds, you couldn't really see much that Liam Paro could do. And I think it kind of like goes through something with Liam Paro, because he was able to do what he did against, Subriel Matias. The thing with Matias was, Matias was having that run. They're stopping people, just trying to walk people down and everything like that. But it was more about the style of those opponents there for Subriel Matias. Once he went up against a guy in Liam Paro that could, hit and move a little bit, Matias still had to reset. And over the course of those 12 rounds, hey, you had the thing there where it just was a bad look for Subriel Matias, and that's how we ended up losing that bout and losing the IBF title to Liam Paro. Now here, you just had like someone that's a better boxer than Richardson Hitchins here against Liam Paro. He said, so it said there, Hitchins very boring. Hey, listen, he's there to win the fight. He ain't there, he ain't necessarily have to be in there to, go ahead and stop folks. Go ahead and beat them up or anything like that. He's there for the name of the game. Hit, not get hit. You feel me? Almost like a what is it, like a Shakur Stevenson type of thing? I don't know. I mean, hey, yeah, some fight fans don't like it. But listen, if he's in there and he ain't trying to get hit, then he ain't trying to get hit. If he wants to get in the nitty gritty, then I guess there'll be a time for him to get on the nitty gritty. But at least for right now, that ain't it. That ain't happening. So with that being said, it was pretty much like a fairly clear win there for Richardson Hitchins and all that type of stuff. At least for me, I felt like it was, right? But you had some wild stuff going on when it came to the judges, right? Two scores, 116, 112. 8 rounds to 4 for Richardson Hitchins. So that's how he was able to get, the title. But it was a split decision. And the judge that had it in favor of Liam Paro, Nelson Vasquez, had it 117, 111 for Liam Paro. 117, 111. What does that mean? That means 9 rounds to 3. There were no knockdowns in the fight. So 117, 111 means that he felt that Liam Paro won 9 of those 12 rounds. Oh my goodness. And a shout out to the live chat there, man. Juice in the building. He says that Paro pressed the pace, but Hitchins was too sharp and beat him to every punch. Yeah, I mean, too sharp. It was a little bit faster than Liam Paro. So where did that judge get 9 rounds at? I don't know. But yeah, that's just crazy that one judge had it 9 rounds to 3 in favor of Liam Paro. But you have Richardson Hitchins, now the new IBF super lightweight champion, now at 19-0. And the thing about it is we got to see what's going to be next year, because this was a mandatory defense of the IBF title. So for Liam Paro, nope, he can't really get in there and get an immediate rematch. That can't necessarily happen, And with that being said, now for Richardson Hitchins, he could have the instance here where he could have a voluntary defense of that IBF title there at 140 pounds. Now, I know that there has been a recent signing by Matchroom Boxing of a fighter that is a former world champion at 135 that is moving up to 140, but that, at least to me, shouldn't be the first bout there. Okay. What you should have for Richard Hitchins in this particular instance is, they got to have a whole lot of options, a lot of options. Yeah, I seen, someone mentioned this thing about Richard Hitchins and Super Matias. Yeah, that could happen. That could happen. Because right now it looks like they're trying to match Jack Catterall and Arnold Barbosa in a bout. So they're trying to enter negotiations for that particular bout. That could be like a final eliminator. They're in for the IBF, and both of those guys are top contenders in the WBO as well. So they could pretty much like knock out 2 birds with 1 stone, man. I mean, at least that's what I would have with that. You feel me? So with that being said, why not have Richard Hitchins have his first world title defense over against Super Matias? But if they do that, hey, listen, don't be surprised if they're gonna have another Matchroom card in Puerto Rico, because this one right here, I had no idea why they would have this fight card in Puerto Rico unless they said this is like an IOU. I guess we thought we would have a Super Matias defeat Liam Paro in the last fight, fight card that we had in Puerto Rico. But it didn't quite happen that way. So maybe we'll just put it in there. It don't cost that much, I guess, though, book the venues out there in Puerto Rico. So we'll have this other fight card over there. You feel me? Yeah. And I know that Super Matias had an interim fight, last month in Puerto Rico. So, and that only was like a 2-round bout. So yeah, it looks like they're trying to see if they could position Super Matias to get another world title shot there. As of right now in the IBF, Super Matias is ranked number 5. So looks like that's what they're trying to do here in this particular instance. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I may open the phone lines here within, what is it, like 12? Yeah, I say 12 minutes. So about 8:30, open up the phone lines. If anyone is listening live, if you got any thoughts on what's going down, we're going to try to open up the phone lines and everything like that. You feel me? All right, bet. What's going on, my dude? Just do boxing in the building. Says, yeah, shout out to Richard Hitchins, new IBF champ. So many people bet against him and picked against him. Yeah, so he was able to do his thing there. But like I said, one of them judges felt like one of them judges wrote on the scorecards 9 rounds for Liam Paro, 3 rounds for Richard Hitchins, and turned it in. I don't understand it. So, but even with that, you still had 2 judges that override. They did override on that. So, you have Richard Hitchins now as a new IBF champion at 140 pounds, and that just gets things going. There at 140. I mean, we had like a whole bunch of stuff going on there within the 140-pound division as far as like world titles. Like Alberto Puello won the title this year. Rayo Valenzuela, of course, defeated Isaac Cruz for the WBA belt. You had Liam Paro that won the IBF belt from Super Matias, and now Richard Hitchins, won the belt from Liam Paro. And the only one that's kind of been stable there as a world champion is Teofimo Lopez. And hopefully we'll talk about Teofimo Lopez here later on in this podcast, because he had a few interesting things to say there while he was on with Top Rank. So we'll see if we could touch into that as well, particularly after this whole thing with what happened in the matchroom card, because there was only one other thing that I was going to talk about from the matchroom card, and some of y'all know what I'll be talking about. But back to the thing here with Richard Hitchins. Yeah, I see him, being put in position to defend that title against Super Matias, particularly that as of right now, Richard Hitchins doesn't really have much of a following, or something where he could have a home, build himself up to have a home. I mean, he's from New York City. Being from New York City, but don't necessarily have something where he could build himself as a up and coming star there within the division. And yeah, I know that he's had a number of encounters with a few notable fighters within 140, 135, 147, all of that. So we got to see how that goes. Yeah, there's been some mention of Richard Hitchins versus Devin Haney, but he says it right now. Yeah, I don't know how that goes, man. Yeah, just do boxing says, yeah, 117, 111 was for Power is nasty work. Yeah, absolute nasty work, bro. Absolute nasty work. But yeah, for Richard Hitchins, we're gonna see what's gonna be coming up for him. I've said like it could be the joint where you could have him going up against Super Matias over in Puerto Rico once again. So, but if it's like that, like I said, this time you gotta watch out here, Richard Hitchins, because I mean, you what is it? You have 19 wins, 7 wins by way of knockout, and your last knockout was in 2022 against Yomar Alamo. But what the fight against Sean Bowser, the fight against Jose Zepeda, Gustavo Lemos, now Liam Paro. Yeah, so you gotta watch out here. All right. So with that being said, let's get to another thing there that happened over in Puerto Rico. And some of y'all know about who I am and whatnot. And no, I'm not talking about the whole thing with Mark Castro against Augustine Quintana, but that, man, yeah, that was crazy. But I want to talk about this thing here. Jalil Major Hackett versus Jose Roman Vasquez. Okay. Major Hackett, of course, going in there undefeated, 9-0, had a version of a WBA title, did have that decision win, over in Philadelphia, when he went 10 rounds there against Peter Dobson. and now he, was put in a position to fight once again within, 5 months. That was the thing with Jalil Hackett, at least, when he signed with Matchroom Boxing, was he was trying to go ahead and be active as possible, as that was one of the big issues that he was having there in his previous joint, right? So now he had his second bout under Matchroom Boxing against Jose Roman Vasquez, a fighter that was there 13-1. Of course, majority of his fights over in Puerto Rico. Had one bout in February, but before that, didn't fight from 2022 until that time in February. So hadn't necessarily been that active. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, going into this bout, you had something with, Jalil Hackett going up against someone that, had a little bit of height on him. But he didn't really have like the activity, particularly early, and the accuracy, right? So what you saw from Jalil Hackett was, more of him being a faster fighter, more accurate fighter, moving in and out, punching with the jab and working the jab up and down, and then getting to the inside and being more effective on the inside with the power shots. And you've seen that for the majority of this fight, particularly the majority of the first half of the fight, right? With Jose Roman, what you saw was him, trying to throw the jab or throw counter punches, but wasn't very accurate. And particularly in the middle rounds, or at least from like round 4 to round 6, you've seen a good amount of holding there from Jose Roman in this bout, and you really didn't see much more from activity from Jose Roman until about round 7 afterwards. You know what I mean? As far as like round 7, I don't know about all that. I don't know. We'll see if we can get more on that, because yes, I will get in contact with Jalil Hackett here this week, hopefully before Thursday. If not before Thursday, then Thursday. We're gonna do that. But going into the 7th and 8th rounds, particularly, you see more activity from Jose Roman, and he was landing more shots there in those particular rounds. Felt like the 8th and 9th round were really, really up in the air, and in the 10th round, you had good efforts from both fighters. And I think with Jalil Hackett, I think in the 8th and 9th round, his overall activity went down, but I just felt like he was able to pick it up a little bit more in the 10th round. But for Jose Roman, he was able to be more effective with the jab while fighting off the back foot, because pretty much the whole fight, that is what Jose Roman was doing. He was fighting off the back foot, using the jab pretty much as a line of defense instead of like a lot of offense. Yeah, man, a whole lot of holding. There's a whole lot of holding in this bout. A whole lot of holding. So, Roberto Ramirez Jr. was the referee. Yeah, you could figure out where Roberto Ramirez is from. Okay. All right. So, with that being said, no, I don't know if it was about Jalil Hackett or if it was about Castro. Now, if it was about Jalil Hackett, I did see the comment, but I didn't know if that was a general comment there from Eddie Hearn that was on Twitter. But I did see that comment. But it's very interesting though. Very interesting. Okay. So with that being said, you get to the scorecards, right? Okay. And you see David Diamante read the scorecards. And I think he read it first, where it says 96-94 for Jose Roman. 96-94 in favor of Jalil Hackett. And then the last one, 96-94 for Jose Roman. And like just who said, there's no way that Vasquez won 6 rounds. But my thing was immediately afterwards was it wasn't that they said that Vasquez won 6 rounds. What that meant to me was two judges only was able to see 4 rounds in favor of Jalil Hackett over the course of those 10 rounds. That to me, nah, no, no. You could go like 5, okay, maybe 5. I would be cool if you want to do a draw, but for two judges to say that Jalil Hackett won 4 rounds, nah, nah. And some folks say like, hey, when it's 6-4, it's not a robbery. Could you really find 6 rounds in favor of Jose Ramon Vasquez? Couldn't. If Charlotte smack like that in the building, man, he says things that Hackett won, but it wasn't nowhere near his best. No, it was not. But even with that, he still was able to do more than what Jose Ramon Vasquez did over the course of the 10 rounds. Yeah, at least 6 rounds, at least 6. But like I said, pretty much like Puerto Rican judges, Puerto Rican referee, the card itself, the order, whether it was something that, hey, I'll see if I can get this later on. I didn't know if it was talked about here like a few hours ago because Jalil Hackett was on Mill City Boxing with Mill City Boxing and Super Zab Judah earlier today. But to go from fighting Pete Dobson for that, that version of the WBA title that they had in Wells Fargo Center, part of the Boots card against David Avanesian, and it's part of the main card. So you have the thing there with what Khalil Cole, Jalil Hackett, right? Sky Nicholson and Boots Ennis. Those were like the 4 fights that were in the main card there for the zone in July, right? You go from that to this here against Jose Ramon, part of the Before the Bell on the zone's YouTube page. That to me is, not all too hot. At least for me, it's not all too hot. Particularly when you're entered in like number 14 in the WBA rankings, then you have this particular bout. Like I sometimes I get it. You want to be as active as possible. You take whatever you can take, but I'll like I said, I'll chop it up with Jalil. I'll chop it up with his father there, Coach Bernard Hackett. Not sure if I'll be able to get in contact with Coach Kenny Ellis. It's like chief second, but like taking some of these fights, I'm telling you, they'll have traps. And this looked like a trap, an absolute trap. Jalil said, hey, we would definitely want to run it back. He's getting right back in the gym once he reaches back here. Pretty much probably like touchdown probably recently, or like a couple hours ago or something like that. But yeah, he's getting right back in the gym. So he'll see run it back. But there was also something else that went down after that result happened. So apparently, there have been a few people that have reacted to Jalil Hackett's loss. And one of them is former undisputed champion at 135 pounds, former WBC champion at 140 pounds, Devin Miles Haney. I don't necessarily get too much into the whole thing with the boxing Twitter and stuff that goes back and forth when it comes to like fighters that are like within the same division, maybe, but outside of the division or in particular, levels or where they're at in their careers, no, I don't really touch that. So when I heard about this whole thing with Devin Haney and Jalil Hackett, I'm like, wait a minute, where is this coming from? So I get the backstory of, okay, this is coming from when Devin Haney had his little ordeal with Ryan Garcia and him, basically suing Ryan Garcia, so to speak. So with that being said, like everybody, had like something to say about that with Devin Haney, how he, did what he was doing. So of course you'll have a lot of people react to that. But what the thing with Jalil Hackett is like, so you mean to tell me that Devin Haney had notes on that thing there about Jalil Hackett's comments? Oh man, that's something that's crazy. But with that being said, guess what? I'm gonna see here if we could go ahead and try this, right? Let's see if we could do this. All right, bet. Let's see if I could do that. We have that there in. So we got live phone lines open. Do you see what's going on there? And let's see if I can move this up a little bit so y'all could go ahead and see me on this joint here. So you could go ahead and hit the phone lines there, 571-449-7217 or 571-470-3323. That's the hotline here for the Boston Source. You feel me? Go ahead and react to what's going down, or what have been going down here in the action over the past weekend. And like I said here with Jalil Hackett, that was just a crazy situation. And then afterwards, you had what was happening, and I'm like, come on, Dev, what are we talking about? But what that did was that incited a reaction from Jalil Hackett, but not only Jalil Hackett, but also his father and trainer Bernard Hackett. And they said, hey, there have been instances where they were scheduled to do some work with Devin Haney, and it didn't quite happen. So there was like some reasoning or anything like that or whatnot. And now with what was said by Devin Haney, now it's like, hey, okay, this is it. It's on. It's on. Like it don't matter how we get this done, how we make this happen. One way or another, we're gonna see if we can set up a fight. And thing is too is like, Bernard Hackett like doubled down on it. He said, listen, you'll put down $10,000 that Jalil Hackett beats Devin Haney. That Jalil Hackett beats Devin Haney. So yeah, so that's the thing about it, man. So Haiti be speaking, but ain't get Ryan. And see that be the thing, right? Because at least for me, I feel like all the stuff that was being done in the past few months was all trying to be set up to have a rematch with Ryan Garcia. Now you got Ryan Garcia doing some whole exhibition type stuff here. And so that kind of like has Devin Haney out of the picture. So now what does he do? He's not the world champion. Yeah, the WBC says that Devin Haney is the champion in recess. But for those that aren't necessarily familiar with how that goes, it's basically when you could be inactive for a certain amount of time. But once you're active again, you have that option to fight for the world title, that WBC world title, right? It's pretty much like how you have the whole situation with Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo is the WBC champion in recess at 154. So he wanted to, he could get in there in the mix at 154 and fight for that 154-pound title that Sebastian Fedora has, right? But with Devin Haney, I'm trying to figure this out. How can Devin Haney be the WBC champion in recess when the WBC ordered the bout between him and Sandor Martin, who is the mandatory at the time? And then once the purse bid took place, Devin Haney and his team didn't accept the purse bid. So if you don't accept the purse bid, doesn't that mean that you end up getting stripped of that world title? Just curious. And I mean, someone could help me out with that. But I thought if you had a mandated fight, you have a mandatory, you go through a purse bid, the purse bid takes place, and someone wins that bid. If it doesn't take place, then what? It goes? Because the team that actually won the purse bid, I'm telling you, they will be able to held the fight, whether it's Matchroom, which it wasn't Matchroom. I thought it was Top Rank, if I'm not mistaken, that won the bid. So Top Rank would have been able to hold that fight, but yet Devin Haney didn't accept it. That's kind of strange. That is kind of strange to me, especially if you could set yourself up for a big fight that could be a unification, but it's a whole nother story, and that's something that I will talk about here later on down the line. Okay. What is Smack Like That says, Haney should focus on his own career and not speak on others when his performance itself was not good. Hey, that was the thing about it. I've said this many times over, and a lot of people were talking about, oh, well, Ryan Garcia, was, there and had a performance enhancing substance and used it. Devin Haney should be at the point where he should be better than Ryan Garcia. And y'all saw the fight. Ryan Garcia really didn't do much on offense. Devin Haney just couldn't really defend against the left hook, which you should know that his money shot. Why would you not be able to defend against the left hook? And it's not like Ryan Garcia like set it up or like a trap. No, he didn't do that. So what are we doing here? Feel me? So yeah, man. What? Man, I have no idea what that comment is. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Oh my God. Yeah, Boyle was a WBC champ. He is the full champ, full WBC champ. Yeah, he had the win over Gary Antoine Russell, and he's a full champ. Devin Haney being the champion in recess. Like I said, I don't know how that's possible, because one, Devin Haney fought this year. He fought what, on April 20th of this year. So how it could be the champion in recess? You know what I mean? That's number one. And then number two, like I said, when he was the actual champion, they had a mandatory fight ordered, and someone won that bid, and they would have been able to, host that particular fight. But as far as I know, Devin Haney and his team didn't quite accept that particular bout because of the money. If I'm not mistaken, he would have been paid around $1.4 to $1.6 million for that fight. Now, this is the same Devin Haney that even before his fight against Ryan Garcia was getting paid what? Around $3 million, right? Okay. So if he was getting paid $3 million in fights against what? Regis Prograis or some other fight, or what they had there with him versus Vasyl Lomachenko. Then he has a fight with Ryan Garcia. That's a pay-per-view fight, and of course had the numbers there, which some people dispute if it's like 350,000 or 500,000 buys or whatever it is. Who knows? But still, as far as I know, even with that going on, they still haven't got paid for that. But either way, after all of that, thing is, once that fight took place on April 20th, the decision was in favor of Ryan Garcia. Was it reversed? Yes, it was reversed. But people saw what they saw. And with that being said, now you have a whole different view of Devin Haney. And with that, now you're like, okay, what is he worth right now? Not sure. Not sure. So, and that pretty much, well, actually, we do know what Devin Haney is worth. Why? Because we had the whole thing with the purse bid. And what did they do with the purse bid? They had him at around $1.4 to $1.6 million. And that was won by Top Rank. But what else happened there? You had Matchroom that put in a bid, and they put in a lower bid. So they were the promotional company that had hosted a number of Devin Haney's fights. And yet, when it came to that purse bid, they pretty much showed Devin Haney what they felt he was worth, given the times that they had worked with them and hosted those events with Devin Haney. So there you go. So was it his trainer, Bill Haney, who didn't prepare, or Haney himself? This is what I don't understand. You know how we talk about this, like what's going on March 1st with Tank Davis and Lamont Roach Jr. They fought each other twice in the amateurs, right? Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia fought 6 times in the amateurs. 6. So you can't tell me that you aren't necessarily familiar with the habits of Ryan Garcia, regardless of what he did before the fight, regardless of him intentionally being overweight or anything like that. Like, you still have to be able to have that basic strategic plan to get away from the left hook, and didn't necessarily do that. Didn't necessarily do that. But we saw a few other things there with Devin Haney that I think kind of like surprised a few people, but it was more about Ryan Garcia's like regular attributes, and with Devin Haney is like maybe he isn't up there as some people may say, but we'll see. You feel me? Or you said smack like that here, it says on live chat. I felt like he didn't do great against Loma, and that could have been a draw. Some people say that Lomachenko won that fight. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. Ryan is a YouTuber that's just able to box. Nah. Now, when he's had those multiple fights there in the amateur ranks. So yeah, you know what I mean. It's just that he hasn't necessarily developed himself in the professional ranks to have more tools than basically left hook and having the speed that he has, just natural speed. So there's that. But yeah, with Devin Haney though, first I'm like, if I was him after that particular bout, I would have been able to try to set up to have a fight or try to have had a fight before the end of this year. But we'll see. Oh, question. Is Hitchins the weakest champ in boxing? Nah. Some people could say that Dennis Berinchyk is the weakest champion in boxing. He had the win over Emmanuel Navarrete, and that was a split decision there at 135 pounds. So some people could say that it's Dennis Berinchyk. Who else we could? I mean, y'all could kind of find some other fighters out there, maybe. You know what I mean? That could be below him. So yeah, but Richardson Hitchins, of course, has some history background also at amateurs too. So I wouldn't necessarily say that. Some could I don't know, man. What, William Skull, baby? Y'all know William Skull? Of course, William Skull recently won the IBF title at super middleweight there against Vladimir Shishkin. So hey, maybe it's crazy. You feel me? So yeah, he should have acquired more skills. Yeah, Ryan should have acquired more skills than that. So, I mean, there's that. You feel me? But that being said, hopefully I get more from Jaleel Major Hackett. When he gets settled in here over on this area. Like I said, he had a conversation with Mill City Boxing and with Super Zab Judo, of course, former undisputed welterweight champion, 2-division world champion there, Super Zab Judo. That's my guy, as he says. So if y'all haven't done so, y'all could check that out. But if there's any other questions y'all may have, y'all just hit us up on the social media, and then we'll see if we can get with Jaleel Hackett here later this week and get some more information on what went on, what went down. You feel me? He says some of them 112 and 115, them champs down there at flyweight and light flyweight and all that type of stuff. Yeah. I feel you on that, man. But you got Bam Rodriguez there, super flyweight there, 115, and he's kind of viewed as one of those guys that could be a top 10 pound for pound fighter. He is on the Boxosaurus pound for pound top 10. So, but I don't know. Maybe this who was it that recently won? Fumalele Kafu, WBO champion super flyweight. I don't know. Maybe you could say that. I don't know. But I'll see if I can put up a poll on Twitter or Facebook or something and says, "Who do y'all feel is the weakest champion in boxing right now?" And I'll put up, since y'all raise up Richardson Hitchins because that's the original question. I'll put up Richardson Hitchins. I'll put up who I say William Skull, right? I'll put up Dennis Baranchik, and then maybe I'll put up one of those guys within that 105 to 115 division, and then y'all go ahead and vote and see what it is. You feel me? So yeah, that's what I got on that. That would be a crazy poll there to see who folks would view as like the quote unquote weakest champion in boxing. That would be something. All right. So yeah, that being said Bambi beating on grandpas though. Hey man, listen. all those guys that had their run at super flyweight, the Carlos Quadrases, the what is it? They trying to pair him up with, Chocolatito Rodriguez, the Juan Francisco Estradas, he the Swizzer Cat so run besides, yeah, Ben Rodriguez has beat all those guys, but as of right now, there really isn't, much competition, so to speak, there at 115. You're trying to see if they could have Ben Rodriguez against Fernando Martinez in the unification bout. And then after that, go after undisputed. Jesse Rodriguez said he wants to go after one undisputed. So after his bout that he had in November 9th, that was just I don't understand how they were able to just set up that fight. I don't know how they got that set up. Because I knew once they had announced it, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be too easy. It's going to be too easy for Ben Rodriguez. And that's exactly what it was. So now go ahead and have that unification bout against Fernando Martinez over in San Antonio. Get Ben Rodriguez a hometown world title defense. Let's just do that. Can we do that? You know what? I said we could do that. You feel me? And then after that, then just go ahead and have the thing for undisputed, because as of right now, from a skill perspective or something like that, some people could say that Ben Rodriguez there at 115 is like how Naoya Inoue is currently at 122. Like he's much better than all of those guys within that particular division at this particular point. And yes, that does include Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. I feel like Chocolatito is a little bit like on the back end right now. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Right. All right. So yeah, that's mainly most of the action that went down. Like I said, you had the whole thing here, man. Looks like y'all scared to hit the phone lines up, man. Y'all ain't got no thoughts of what happened this week or this weekend. I know that we had like a couple of things there. Of course, I was out there for the press tour for Tank Davis versus Lamont Rhodes Jr. They had the whole thing over in Brooklyn, and then over at Howard University in Washington, D.C. There. So, they're getting things going with that. I've posted a couple clips from what was happening after the D.C. press conference, but the full press conferences for both Brooklyn and D.C., they're on the Boxing Source YouTube page. So y'all could check that out there as well. But I wanted to also touch on, as I was mentioning earlier, Teofimo Lopez. There's the WBO champion at 140 pounds. And Teo, he's had a couple of bouts here in 2024. But at least for me, man, it's kind of been a disappointing year for Teofimo Lopez. 2 world title defenses, and 2 of them that ain't really all too hot. Jermaine Ortiz and Steve Claggett. And yes, we've had reports in the past that Teofimo Lopez was lined up to fight Ryan Garcia, but declined because of the whole thing with the money. Come on, Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez, y'all. Teofimo Lopez. And yeah, he's had some select comments about some fighters, and you know what? That's why, at least for me, I could have him as a topic, but as far as like interviewing him, no, that's not going to happen. Not from this point forward. Not going to happen. But he did talk with Mark Kriegel over there with Top Rank, and he did say that he had 3 fights in mind, right? Had 3 fights in mind, and 2 of them are pretty interesting. Well, at least three of them. I think he mentioned Tank Davis. He mentioned Jerome Boots Ennis, and he mentioned Terrence Crawford. He's talked about fighting Terrence Crawford for years now, particularly when Terrence Crawford was at 147 and him, being there at 140 pounds. We all know that fight ain't gonna ever happen because Terrence Crawford is for big fights and big fights only. And I'll talk about that here a little later on. But Jerome Boots Ennis, I've had folks like within my circle say, hey, they may be talking about having that particular fight, but I'm like, well, why have that fight with Boots Ennis at 147 pounds for Ennis's IBF title when you could go up as the WBO champion and lineal champion and super champion and go up and face Brian Norman Jr. for Brian Norman's WBO title? We're talking about having that particular fight anyway, so why not go ahead and have that fight? Have that fight first, and if you go ahead and get that win, guess what? You're two division. What? No. It wouldn't be a two division champion. You'll be a three division champion, right? Because you're unified at 135. You were lineal champion defeating Josh Taylor at 140, and then you'll be able to go up to 147 and win the WBO title at 147. So why not go ahead and have that route and then say, hey, you know what? I beat Brian Norman Jr. for the WBO title. Now let's have something here, Boots Ennis. Unification, WBO and IBF. But yeah, Tim, yeah, Tim, I feel you, man. In one round, like it. Hey, listen, Teofimo talks, but hey, listen, it wouldn't be good. It would not be good at all. He just does not. He does not have it. He has it. He does not have the consistency, the overall consistency to compete against someone like that, and he doesn't have the style that would really give problems for either one of those fighters. A lot of people talk about this whole thing with Boots Ennis' last fight against Karen Chikazian. Karen Chikazian has movement style, of course, the background there, being in the Eastern European countries and that type of stuff, where his movement is his key to, getting the advantage over his opponents. Teofimo Lopez doesn't move like that. He would never move like that. He couldn't move like that, especially if he's going up to 147 pounds. Nah, I just don't see it. So at least for me, what he could do is he could try to, like I said, move up to 147 as a WBO super champion and face Brian Norman Jr. Yeah, I know Brian Norman is coming off of an injury. He was supposed to fight, on November 8th in Norfolk against Derek Cuevas, and they're looking to try to reschedule it. But I don't know, man. Brian Norman Sr., I don't see if Brian Norman Sr. would be interested in having his son defend that WBO title against Teofimo Lopez. Let's see. I mean, he's very vocal. He's on social media a lot. Let's see if we can raise up that question to Brian Norman Sr. Would he be interested in having his son fight Teofimo Lopez for that WBO welterweight title? Yeah. Teo lays on the ropes too much. Yeah. And how would that work against guys like Boots Ennis, who's taller and has longer reach than Teofimo Lopez, and with Terrence Crawford? Same thing, especially with Terrence Crawford being a precision counterpuncher or a precision puncher. Yeah, that would be a definite problem for Teofimo Lopez. So I say if you're not going to try to delve into maybe going up against Brian Norman Jr., which could be also a dangerous fight in itself because Teofimo Lopez, like I said, he lays on the ropes and he really doesn't move, like on his toes like that. He'll move around, but he doesn't like move on his toes and isn't like a quick twitch type of fighter when it comes to his feet. So I don't know. But like a Brian Norman Jr., especially after Brian Norman's last fight. Let's see if Teofimo Lopez could like move up and have that particular fight happen. But if he ain't delving in that, then yeah, you could like lay off of that. You feel me? So yeah, so there's that, man. But hey, I pretty much like talked about what has been talked about here for this particular week, this weekend. Yeah, I know that there was like a heavyweight title fight that took place, but come on, y'all, come on, Mahmoud Char, Kubrat Pulev, that's a world title fight. Come on, y'all, what are we doing? What are we doing? Come on, man. So all I say is, just look forward to, more action coming up. Know that we have what is it? A rematch for, as I would say, the number one spot in the heavyweight division, right? With Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury on December 21st. But outside of that, yeah, we really don't have that much action here coming up until what is it? Iowa Inoue fighting on the 24th. So that pretty much like closes things out. Yeah, you have Ryan Garcia in that exhibition on December 30th. December 31st is the Japan joint. So, they always have their year-end stuff in Japan there, whether it's December 31st or January 1st, depending on what time it is there or in Japan for that. So, yeah. Interim title fight. No, Mahmoud Char versus Kubrat Pulev was for the WBA regular heavyweight championship. So you have a WBA regular champion, you have a WBA super champion. But I thought the WBA said that they were supposed to phase out the regular title and just have one title. But that's the sanctioning bodies for you. The more titles they have, the more money they could get. That's how it is. So yeah. It says what before you do. What is Devin Haney's next move or fight? Man, I really don't know now. I really don't know. You have all this stuff going on with him and Ryan Garcia, the whole legal stuff between him and Ryan Garcia. I thought, we could have had something to the point of you would have Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez. Would it be a unification fight? No, it shouldn't be. I said what I said in reference to him being a champion in recess. He shouldn't even be a champion in recess. But still, if you could have Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez, then that could be, two fighters that are there at the top of 140 pounds. Go ahead and have that fight. But I don't know how that's gonna happen. Like I said, you got Teofimo Lopez there as a top ranked fighter. You got Devin Haney, who has fought on top ranked related events, so to speak. There with Lomachenko. But as I mentioned, Top Rank won that bid where you had Devin Haney and Sandor Martin for that mandatory. Did the fight take place? No. So that's my thing. What happened? But yeah, outside of that, I really couldn't give you a concrete, decision as to what could be next for Devin Haney, especially after what went down, man. This has been a real interesting 2024 for Devin Haney. He had been, riding high, of course, being a undisputed champion at 135 and moving up to 140. Yeah, he had his win over Regis Prograis, pretty much a clean sweep. And then after that, going into 2024, Ryan Garcia. And well, we saw what happened there. So at least for me, I would really be interested to see what happens with him next. Because one, you haven't had a fight since April 20th, 2024. And two, if you're coming back, who are you going to come back against? What's that? Matias start back from the bottom, or can he get a big fight? He's had one fight in Puerto Rico, second round knockout victory. and he's there at number 5 in the IBF rankings. Like I mentioned there, you got Richardson Hitchins as the new IBF champion in 140 pounds. So you could see Richardson Hitchins versus Subio Matias next. Richardson Hitchins won the title as the mandatory challenger, so there's no rematch clause. He won it. That's it. It's done. So Richardson Hitchins has the option to defend against anybody that's out there. And Subio Matias could be that particular option because, like I said, with Richardson Hitchins, it's not like he has something where he could build himself up as a hometown fighter or get like a hometown crowd, that type of stuff. He didn't have that coming up. Or at least for me, he didn't have that coming up. So had that fight against Subio Matias. Feel me? Champ, what's going on, man? What's happening with you? You got that, of course, the predictions league and that type of stuff there, man. Hey, one day, I'm gonna be the top person there in that predictions league. One week, I'm gonna be able to get it. One week, I'll be able to get it. But yeah, with Subio Matias, he had that fight against Liam Paro, and it was just something where he just got outboxed. So now he'll pretty much be in that position to try to win that IBF title once again if he has to fight against Richardson Hitchins. So we'll see. But I feel like that's going to be a really tough bout for Subio Matias. If he thought that Liam Paro gave him some issues there as far as moving around and tagging and moving and all that type of stuff, Richardson Hitchins is much more than that. So, yeah. They were setting up Paro Kambosos in Australia. Yeah, like I said, Kambosos' recent signing there with Matchroom Boxing, planning to go up to 140 pounds, and has like a bout that they're setting up for him in 2025, early 2025, probably around March of 2025. And then after that, he said that he's trying to go after a world title. Looked like they tried to have Kambosos versus Liam Paro for that IBF title, but nope. Richard Hitchins gets the win. So you feel like that. He says also nobody cared to see that except Australians. Yeah, but they probably would have paid a good amount of money for that. So there you go, man. There you go. But yeah, that's mainly what I have, man. For next week. As far as if I'm going to do a podcast next week, I don't know about all that. There is some action on December 13th. There's some action on December 14th, including Jaime Munguia is going to be in action in Mexico. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna. and I got like some things I'm gonna be doing next weekend, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do a podcast at least next Sunday. So we'll see how that goes. He said Canelo announce his next opponent by February or wait until after the Benavidez versus Morrell fight? I don't think the Benavidez Morrell fight is going to matter much anyway, because he's not going to fight either one of those guys. And at the very least, David Benavidez has moved on from Canelo Alvarez. It was very evident after Benavidez had fought their light heavyweight to get the interim light heavyweight title, WBC light heavyweight title, with his win over Alexander Kovacic. And he said, well, I'll consider either staying at 175 or going down to 168. And the only reason why he would go back down to 168 is to fight Canelo Alvarez at the time. And, well, we've seen what happened. Canelo said that he's going to fight Edgar Berlanga. So I think that ship has sailed. As far as like a Canelo Benavidez fight, I think that ship has sailed. Like, regardless of what happens with Benavidez versus Morrell, because I feel like that particular fight in itself is going to be a really interesting encounter between those two. And some people know my early prediction for that fight. Let me just say that. So, yeah, I doubt that. And either way, regardless of the result of Benavidez versus Morrell, I think the winner of that is going to go after the winner of the rematch between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. So why even mess with Canelo if Canelo isn't interested in fighting either one of those guys? Nah, I wouldn't even waste my time with that. He says Crawford been quiet. I'm hoping Canelo gives him the call for Cinco de Mayo. I hope not. I'd rather have Canelo fight Christian and Billy or Lester Martinez or freaking even a rematch with Caleb Plant. I don't care. Uh, anybody else there within super middleweight, I'd rather have Canelo do that than to face Terrence Crawford. But Terrence Crawford, if he's not gonna entertain something there with Jerome Buchanan, cool. I did see a recent announcement from a fighter that was competing at 154 pounds. Says, hey, he's getting back. He's coming back. And that is the former undisputed super welterweight champion, Jermell Charlo. And that was a fight that was talked about, particularly after Crawford's win over Errol Spence. You all saw Jermell Charlo there in attendance at that fight. And you all saw what Terrence Crawford was doing there while he was having that fight with Errol Spence. He was taunting Jermell Charlo. So why not have that fight happen? I don't see any issues with that. Hopefully y'all don't, but I don't see any issues with that. That's another grudge match between two guys that really don't like each other. I'd rather have that fight than have Terrence Crawford get quote unquote bailed out with a fight against Canelo Alvarez. Nah, I don't see it. Well, Turkey LLC trying to make a Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul rematch. Oh man, I hope not. Oh man, no, we don't need that. We don't need that. Okay, we saw what we saw. It is what it is, and let it go. And that's done. Let's have Jake Paul, continue what he's doing there with Most Valuable Promotions, and see if he can eventually, fight, more fighters that are more experienced within the sport of boxing. Not just having their pro debuts or having some other type of fights or whatever it is, but let him do what he's doing. If he's getting the money doing what he's doing, then let him keep doing what he's doing. But revisiting a Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, for what? There's no point in that. No, we ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna do that. All right, so yeah, that's it for me, man. Was about around a little bit after 9 p.m. Eastern time. Like I said, we're gonna see what's happening here over the course of the week. We'll try to see if we can get more interviews that'll be on the Boxing Source YouTube page. We're going to try to set up more interviews. And yes, I'm still try to see if I can get in contact with Jaleel Major Hackett here later this week. Okay. So that's mostly what I have. For those that were able to listen in live, big thanks for all of y'all listening live, whether it's on YouTube or Rumble. Like I said, go ahead and share this stream. Spread the word here for the Boxing Source. This will be hopefully available in audio form, on Spotify or like iHeartRadio or Amazon Podcasts or anything that type of stuff, right? So you'll be able to hear it in audio form. Okay, so yeah. So with that being said, that's it from me here for this particular podcast, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.